No one is like God. Union Gospel Press, Bible Expositor and Illuminator, Winter Quarter, December, January, February 2025 through 2026. Teaching the lesson through Heart of the Lesson for December 28th, 2025. Lesson text, Isaiah chapter 40 verses 21 through 31. Related scriptures, Psalm 2 verses 1 through 12, Psalm 33 verses 1 through 22, Psalm 83 verses 1 through 18, Jeremiah chapter 51 verses 15 through 19, and 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 8 through 11. Time about 740 to 680 BC. The place, Jerusalem. No one is like God. Golden text. To whom then will ye liken me, or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One. Isaiah 40, verse 25. Introduction. Isaiah 40 has long echoed as a message of hope. From Isaiah's 8th century context of the Babylonian exile, and long after this chapter has reoriented the despairing toward God. In the previous 39 chapters, the prophet's message is one primarily of grim warnings and impending doom. Those chapters reflect the political and military pressures that was mounting against Israel and Judah. From his 8th century Jerusalem dwelling, Isaiah witnessed the collapse of the northern kingdom under a Assyrian force. He also endured the empire's siege of Jerusalem some 2 decades later. To the modern reader, it seems that God's people were hopeless, but such an impression could not be further from the truth. After the grim warnings that dominate the earlier portion of the book, the prophet shifted his gaze towards a reality beyond the impending threat of exile. In the distance, Isaiah saw the promise of comfort in God drawing near. Isaiah 40 verses 1 through 5. There is hope for God's people, even in the midst of exile in a foreign land. Lesson outline. Introduction. Isaiah 40 verse 21. 2. God of creation. Isaiah 40 verses 22 through 26. And 3. God of hope. Isaiah 40 verses 27 through 31. Exposition. Introduction. Isaiah 40 verse 21. Have ye not known? Have ye not heard? Hath it not been told you from the beginning? Have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? Exposition. God of creation. Isaiah 40 verses 22 through 26. 23. That bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the earth his vanity. 24. Yea, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth. And he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither, and the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. Exposition. God of creation. Isaiah verses 22 through 26. Verse 25. To whom then will ye liken me, or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? 26. Lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number? He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, and not one faileth. God of hope. Isaiah 40, 27 through 31. 27. Why sayest thou, O Jacob, and speaketh, O Israel, my way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God? 28. Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard? That the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He hath given power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increaseth strength. Verse 30. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. 31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Preparing to teach the lesson. When we think of God's holiness, it can be easy to focus exclusively on His glory or righteousness. There is, however, another aspect we need to consider: His power. God is the Holy One who has no equal. No false god can stand in comparison with Him. His power is unmatchable, and although the nations may rage against Him, they cannot triumph. He who created us sustains us, and we can take comfort in the knowledge that His plans will succeed. Today's aim: facts. To understand what Isaiah proclaimed about the character of God to a people in distress. Principle: to learn how no one is God's equal and that He rules over all things. Application: to take comfort in the holiness and power of God, knowing that He is sovereign over all rulers and will sustain His people. Introducing the lesson. The more books you read and movies you watch, the more likely you are to notice a common theme running through many of them: a dastardly plot to take over the world. Whether it is a gangster seeking to rule the city, a warrior setting his sights on the entire world, or even a leader attempting to reign over the universe, the quest for power occupies much of our attention. Unfortunately, plots for power are not limited to the fictional world. Historical figures such as Alexander the Great or Hitler come to mind, and probably some modern leaders as well. Historical figures such as Alexander the Great or Hitler come to mind, and probably some modern leaders as well. No matter how powerful these leaders seem to get, however, they cannot thwart the plans of God. Many of the first 39 chapters of Isaiah focus on the judgment of God's wayward people and their subjugation to evil nations. The tone signifies shifts in Isaiah 40 to one of hope. Even though the Israelite situation seems hopeless, God was in control. Our holy God cannot be matched in power, and He would rescue His people. Developing the lesson. Number 1. God's power through His authoritative rule, Isaiah 40, verses 21 through 24. Our passage begins with a series of questions that Isaiah repeated throughout this prophecy. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Verses 21 and 28. The implication is that whatever Isaiah says next, the people ought to have known. In this case, they should have understood the power and authority of God. The Israelites had no excuse for turning to false gods. Not only are God's attributes known through creation, Romans 1:19, but God had explicitly given His law, His name, and His presence to them. Instead of recognizing His holy authority, that God alone has ultimate power and rules over everything, they looked to human leaders. They feared their oppressors, and also cried out to kings, both for their own and those of foreign allies, to rescue them. Isaiah revealed that their fear and hope were unfounded. God can vanquish any human leader as easily as we blow out a candle. He alone gives people power, and He has the right and the ability to take away that power. Nothing happens apart from His plan. Instead of placing our hope in human leaders, we need to stand in reverent awe of our holy and powerful God, worshiping Him because He alone has true authority. We can also take comfort in that fact because no human oppressor will last. They may succeed for a time on this earth, but their plans fail when their lives end. Psalms 2, verses 1 through 6. No one is like God in having absolute eternal authority. 2. God's power through His creative acts, Isaiah 40, 25 through 26. In addition to highlighting God's power through His authority, Isaiah's prophecy called attention to God's power through His acts of creation. The Israelites likened Him to false gods who had no power and no breath, Jeremiah 51, verses 15 through 19. But Isaiah reminded them that the living God is the creator. No one can create out of nothing. No one is his equal, which is demonstrated by the fact that no one else aided him in creating the universe. Creation reveals his power. All we have to do is look up at night and recognize that the stars hang in the sky at God's command alone. 3. God's power through his sustaining work. Isaiah 40:27 through 31. Because God had abandoned the Israelites to their enemies, they complained that he had disregarded their cause and judged them wrongly. However, they did not recognize their failure to worship God as the Holy One. They cheapened their worship of him by submitting to earthly kings and powerless idols. They may have practiced the law, but their hearts were far from God. Isaiah responded to the Israelites' complaint by revealing more of God's character. He will accomplish his perfect plans. Isaiah 55:8 through 11. Isaiah pointed out that God's strength never fails. The Israelites were overrun by enemies, but God could sustain his people. God provided the comfort for his people by inviting them to take refuge in him alone. Their strength would fail. His never would. Illustrating the lesson. God's work in sustaining creation demonstrates his holy power. He alone created, and he alone upholds the universe. Concluding the lesson. No one is like our God. He cannot be matched in his power and holiness. Isaiah's prophecy revealed a God who rules over all things, and whose plans cannot be thwarted. No king can defy him or usurp him. No ruler can defeat his purposes. God's people would suffer in exile, but that exile will not last forever. God, in his perfect timing, would bring them out of their distress. Take some time to reflect on the ways God has brought you out of your own distress. If you are currently in a difficult season, meditate on his power and thank him for his perfect plans. Take comfort in the knowledge that the plans of the wicked will ultimately fail. Just as he sustained the Israelites then, so he will sustain us now when we seek him. Anticipating the next lesson. Lesson 5 will begin on a unit on God's holy house. We will begin by examining how Jesus' cleansing of his temple showed God's holiness. Practical points. Number 1. Christians should recall what God has done in the past, Isaiah 40 verse 21. Number 2. Recognize that God created the universe and reigns over it, verse 22. Number 3. God has authority over human rulers, verses 23 through 24. Number 4. God alone stands above the fates of humans and kingdoms, verses 25 through 26. 5. In times of doubt, remember that God is the creator of all, verses 27 through 28. And number 6. Christians should hope in God alone, verses 29 through 31. Illustrated high points. The inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, Isaiah 40 verse 22. The world's largest grasshopper is Australia's hedge grasshopper, Valanga irregularis, aptly known as the giant grasshopper. Females regularly grow up to 3 inches long, with some even reaching 3.5 inches. Even if Isaiah had these in mind, and not the much smaller ones indigenous to the landscape of Judah, his point is still clear. From God's throne in the heavens, we appear so small. But that does not mean he is indifferent toward us, as we often are towards passing insects. Rather, it reminds us that he is the creator and ruler of the cosmos and everything in it. In him, we can hope, for he is far greater than we know. Bringeth out their hosts by number, verse 26. On the clearest night and in the darkest location, the human eye can see over 5,000 stars. Astronomers estimate the number of stars in our galaxy, the Milky Way, to be 100 billion. Yet even this number pales in comparison to the 200 billion trillion stars scientists estimate exist in the universe. If Isaiah's audience was moved by the prophet's promise that God reigns over the thousands of stars they can see, imagine how they would react to the numbers we know today. God rules over every element of the cosmos, from the mass of stars light years away to the smallest particles on the earth. Nothing is beyond him. For every one of these, he cares. He knows each star by name, and he will not allow one to go astray. Golden Text Illuminated. To whom then will ye liken me? Or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? Isaiah 40, verse 25. Golden Text Illuminated. Isaiah's question in 40:25 challenges us to consider God's unmatched nature and highlights that no one is like him. This verse evokes a sense of wonder in the unique supremacy of God and prompts us to examine how this truth impacts both life and faith. The passage preceding this verse emphasizes the limitless understanding, power, and sovereignty of God. Isaiah paints a picture of the vastness of the universe, expressing that God's wisdom and knowledge surpass all human understanding. In contrast to our limited perspective, God's understanding is infinite. These verses remind us of the immense gap between our understanding and God's. God's attributes and character are unparalleled and cannot be replicated or compared to any created being or worldly power. No other being possesses the unchanging nature, the perfect wisdom, and the infinite love that define our God. There is no other. We must remember that not even Satan himself is as powerful as God. While we often view Satan as the direct enemy of God, Satan is not equally powerful as God. Satan is a created being just like the rest of creation. Again, there is no one like God. These truths have profound implications for our lives. First, acknowledging that no one is like our God instills a deep sense of reverence and worship. It prompts us to approach God with humility, recognizing that He is far greater than we can comprehend. We are called to bow before Him in awe and surrender, acknowledging His supremacy and worthiness of all honor. Moreover, embracing God's unparalleled place encourages us to put our trust and hope in Him alone. We live in a world saturated with false gods and worldly temptations, but this truth reminds us that God alone is worthy of our full devotion and allegiance. It prompts us to seek Him above all else, placing our faith in His unfailing love and unending power. Additionally, understanding that no one is like our God brings great comfort and assurance. In a world filled with uncertainties, challenges, and changing circumstances, we can find security in the unchanging nature of our God. People may look to different things in life such as addictions, work, relationships, and more to find fulfillment. God's faithfulness and steadfastness provide the only firm foundation on which we can build our lives. Finally, embracing this truth leads us to share the good news of God's salvation with others. As ambassadors of Christ, we have the privilege and responsibility to proclaim the truth that there is no one like our God. This message offers hope, redemption, and eternal life to those who are lost and searching for something or someone to fill the void in their lives. Reflecting on Isaiah 40:25 fills our hearts with reverence and gratitude. God's unmatched understanding, power, and love compel us to worship, trust, and hope in Him alone. As we embrace the truth of God's incomparable nature, we are transformed and empowered to live as faithful followers of Christ, sharing His love and truth with a world that desperately needs to know that no one is like our God. Heart of the lesson. Isaiah 40 verses 21 through 31 presents a wonderful picture of God's greatness and power, emphasizing that no one is like Him in all creation. These verses invite us to recognize and proclaim that God surpasses all earthly and heavenly comparisons. Number 1. The unparalleled understanding of God, Isaiah 40 verses 21 through 22. Isaiah highlights God's incomparable understanding and knowledge, which extends far beyond our limited comprehension. God effortlessly stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent. This imagery showcases His vast wisdom and the expanse of His understanding. When we climb a mountain or stand before a beautiful landscape, we are reminded of the greatness of nature's creator. The vast and complexity of the natural scene offer a glimpse into the unfathomable understanding of our Creator. Just as we cannot comprehend the intricate details of such a view, we cannot fully grasp the depth of God's understanding. In viewing the mountains or other natural wonders, we remember how great God is and how small we are. We should humbly embrace the fact that God's understanding surpasses our own. When faced with perplexing situations, let us trust in the all-knowing Creator rather than lean on our own limited knowledge. 2. The fleeting nature of human powers, Isaiah 40 verses 23 through 26. Isaiah juxtaposes the temporary nature of worldly powers, such as rulers and princes, with the enduring and unchanging nature of God. Earthly authorities rise to prominence, but they eventually wither away like fading grass. They are transient, unlike God's eternal reign. There are some plants that only flower for a limited amount of time. These flowers remind us of the fleeting nature of the human power and authority, asserting that no one, regardless of their status, can compare to the everlasting reign of God. We should remember to seek God's wisdom through prayer, the study of His Word, and guidance from godly mentors. We should acknowledge that God's perspective and understanding transcends human limitations of life. 3. The renewal and empowerment of God's people, Isaiah 40, 27 through 31. Isaiah reassures the weary and downtrodden by pointing that God's unceasing power and ability to strengthen those who wait on Him. The prophet declares that God does not grow tired or weary. Rather, He imparts strength to those who place their hope in Him. Runners sometimes hit what is called the wall. This is a point at which they may start to feel low on energy. But if they can break through, they have a surge of energy and find the strength and endurance to persevere. This reminds us how God renews and empowers His people, not with just physical energy, but spiritual strength. He enables them to soar on wings like eagles. The Hebrew word for renew means to change or exchange. It implies a transformation or a refreshing of one's strength or vigor. Let us embrace patience and trust in God's timing, knowing that He will renew our strength when facing weariness. Rely on God's endless supply of power, which is never exhausted. Embrace humility, trust in His sovereignty, seek His wisdom, and patiently wait upon Him. In doing so, you will witness the transformative power of our incomparable God. Additional resources: Union Gospel Press, Sunday School Lessons by Haven of Rest Missionary Baptist Church, Union Gospel Press Sunday School Lessons Questions by Jordan Christian Center, Union Gospel Press Channel Teaching the Lessons, Golden Text Illuminated, Heart of the Lesson, and Research Discussion.